first we'll see if this thing even works. Hello, if anybody's there. Oh. I tend to get a few things. Test my audio since it's just me. So, give a few moments for anybody to show, for somebody to show up before I start. If anybody will show up. But, well, if anybody's there, how's everybody doing? Uh, Started a little, or a couple hours later than I wanted to, but I wanted to, I had to take care of a few things first, and I wanted to look up a few things before I got started. But, let's see. Oh, I hope my audio is coming in okay. I hope I didn't clicking too much. I got a combination of new headset and the cat wants to play with the mic, so. Alrighty. Let's see. I'll take a drink and now, as I'm sure others have covered to death, you have the Senate bill, the the bill that passed the Senate, sending the the $95 billion foreign aid bill, which shafts us, and there's it's kind of crazy that they believe that people are going to enjoy this. The people are going to think this is a good thing. That they're bankrupting us all so they can enrich themselves, as it were. At least that's how I see it. So we'll pull up this real quick. See if the feed shows up okay on it. Was it this one? This one. That was the one. Sorry, yeah, definitely a professional operation here, trying to figure things out. Okay. Absolutely professional. Spared no expense. Um, and here on this is Associated Press. Yeah. I don't like them, but they had the best written article for this. Senate passes 95.3 billion aid package for Ukraine and Israel, but fate in the House is uncertain. God willing. The Senate early Tuesday passed $95.3 billion aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, pushing ahead after months of difficult negotiations and growing political division in the Republican Party over the role of the United States abroad. No, no, no. It's real simple. You had rhinos and warmongers, the two, that decided to join with Democrats, which most of them are warmongers at this point. I thought the Democratic Party used to be anti-war. Boy, they changed since the '70s, the '60s and '70s. Oof. They were staunchly anti-war, and now they're for it. The vote came after a small group of Republicans opposed to the $60 billion for Ukraine held the Senate floor through the night, using the final hours of the debate to argue that the U.S. should focus on its own problems before sending more money overseas. Agreed? But 22 Republicans voted with nearly all Democrats to pass the package, 70-29, with supporters arguing that abandoning Ukraine could embolden Russian President Vladimir Putin and threaten national security across the globe. Horseshit. Sorry, sorry, filter didn't turn off there. Um, with this bill, the Senate declares that American leadership will not waver, will not falter, will not fail, said Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Mind you, in this bill, this wonderful piece of crap, I won't call it human, because whenever the immigration bill that had this stuff in it failed, which he was arguing either you pass it or we'll send your family members and you over to Europe to fight. This ass clown said that, hey, we're gonna make sure that you that we're gonna have a provision in there to basically punish you, because he said pass it or we're gonna send them. And this bill that you have now, this 95.3, has 200 and I believe it's like $283 million set aside for sending U.S. troops over to Europe. So basically, he's fulfilling his promise of, well, you didn't obey, so now I'm going to kill your family. At least that's what it sounds like. I'm sorry, I just get very. My words don't come out so elegantly, and whenever I'm frustrated with mindless crap like this, with this, you know, the bill's passage through the Senate with a flourish of GOP support was a welcome sign for Ukraine amid critical shortages on the battlefield. How's that our problem? Especially considering if you look at some of what they've been finding, particularly the UN and others, some of the weapons that were sent over by us to go to Ukraine are right now sitting inside of Gaza being used against the Israelis. They've tracked the serial numbers of some of them. It's crazy. So no. Yeah, battlefield shortages. You're selling them to other countries. Woohoo. Moral money laundering by you people. Yet the package faces a deeply uncertain future in the House, where hardline Republicans align with former President Donald Trump, the frontrunner for the GOP presidential nomination and a critic of support for Ukraine, oppose the legislation. Speaker Mike Johnson, Congressman Mike Johnson, cast new doubt on the package in a statement Monday evening, making clear that it could be weeks or months before Congress sends the legislation to President Joe Biden's desk, if at all. Yeah, I say burn this bill to crisp. Biden, in a statement, urged the House to urgently act. We cannot afford to wait any longer. The cost of inaction are rising every day, especially in Ukraine. I don't care. I really don't. I just don't care anymore. I didn't care to begin with. I didn't think we should be involved with it. Humanitarian aid was one thing, but then they started sending weapons. I did not agree with that. It's not our war. We shouldn't be involved in it. We got enough problems here. Our infrastructure's shot. People can't afford to buy basic necessities, much less whenever they're talking about, hey, I want to get a home. Nope, can't do that anymore. The entire economy's fried, and they're just sending more and more and more of it over there. And what do we get in the end? Oh, yeah. These people, most of these worthless people have contracts, have investments in the same firms, same companies that had military contracts. They're making a fortune off of this. And they're laundering a good chunk of money in other ways, too. I mean, went over the video, I think it was last night. They were showing that some of the money that's going to Ukraine, I must wonder why we should have to pay for it, is going to pay their government employees for the next year. as well as it's going to make sure to pay for some concert tickets and stuff for over there. And I'm like, no, stop sending these people money. You stop sending the money now. If Europe wants to help them out, go ahead, but it's not our responsibility to take care of everybody else. We bankrupted ourselves over lies of politicians and lost a lot of lives over it. I mean, more do we have to lose before these people learn a lesson? I got an idea. How about we load up all these senators that voted for this, that agreed with this, load them into a nice plane, put a nice little pew pew in their hand, and put them on the front line of Ukraine. If they want to fight for it so much, go ahead. Instead, they'll be more than willing to send us over, that's for sure. Already, we are seeing reports of Ukrainian troops running out of ammunition on the front lines of as Russian forces continue to attack and Putin continues to dream of subjugating the Ukrainian people, the president also said. Horseshit. Schumer said the strong bipartisan support should pressure Johnson to advance the bill. McConnell has made Ukraine his top priority in recent months and was resolute in the face of considerable pushback from his own GOP conference. McConnell's a damn rhino at best. He's a turtle. He should have been out there a long time ago. Why Kentucky holds on to him, I don't know. Personally, at this point, I fear they'd come to their senses and say it's better out just to elect an outright Democrat than to keep putting this rhino back in there. This old fossil that's been around since the dawn of man. Speaking directly to his detractors, the longtime Republican leader, yeah, long time, longer than the country's been founded, said in a statement, history settles every account, and today, on the value of American leadership and strength, history will record that the Senate did not blink as they bankrupted the American people just so he could fill his pockets. Sick bastard. Dollars provided by the legislation would purchase U.S. made defense equipment, right there, including munitions and air defense systems that authorities say are desperately needed as Russia batters the country. It also includes $8 billion for the government in Kiev, whatever, and other assistance. Yeah, right there. We're going to pay for their government, and instead of taking care of our own crap. These jackasses can do this, and then they get upset whenever you say taxation is theft. It is, because they're taking your money and putting it in their pockets. They're claiming that, oh well, we're doing this and sending it over there. Yeah, you're purchasing the stuff, sending it over there, but by purchasing it, you're just filling your own coffers. In addition, the legislation would provide $14 billion for Israel's war with Hamas and $8 billion for Taiwan and partners in the Indo-Pacific to counter China, and $9.1 billion in humanitarian assistance for Gaza and the West Bank, Ukraine, and other populations caught in conflict zones across the globe. Screw you. Progressive lawmakers have objected to sending offensive weaponry to Israel, and Senator Bernie Sanders, an independent of Vermont, as well as two Democrat senators, Jeff Merkley of Oregon and Peter Welch of Vermont, voted against it. I cannot in good conscience support sending billions of additional taxpayer dollars for Prime Minister Netanyahu's military campaign in Gaza, Welch said. It's a campaign that has killed and wounded a shocking number of civilians. It's created a massive humanitarian crisis. Well, I wonder why they would be. I wonder why they would be attacking Gaza. Not like anything happened in October. Of course, these people have been fighting for centuries. Once again, we need to stay the hell out of it. It's not our business. The bill's passage followed almost 5 months of torturous negotiations over an expansive bill that would have paired the foreign aid with an overhaul of border and asylum policies. That was the biggest load of crap that I've read in a while. Was the original bill, the one that had the supposed border security in it? Yeah, just open wide. Oh, and so Republicans demanded the trade-off, saying the surge of migration into the United States, illegal immigration, not just migration, in the United States had to be addressed alongside the security of allies. No, it's real simple. Um, these, it's just more crap. Look, I can't take the Associated Press much more. Look, if you want to read their article, which I say go ahead, you have Mary Claire Jelinek and Stephen Groves. At this point, I don't even care if I pronounce the names right. Uh, Going through all this, you get to even more wording, and it just basically they're saying, "Oh, we have to keep supporting over there, otherwise it's all going to hell in a handbasket." And it isn't. We're just bankrupting our country and making our people suffer for others for no reason, as far as I can tell, because it's none of our damn business. Now, what I got here is a video from Tucker. He's basically talking on this whole deal, and it's on some of the policy of it. And I figure I'll let it go and see if YouTube strikes me. YouTube hits me with a copyright again. We'll figure out. Come on. Thank you. Needed that. Just, not try to refresh this. Yeah, you have, let me pause it. As for episode 74, the Ukrainian government canceled elections and killed an American journalist. Congress is about to send them another $60 billion, and this is talking about J.D. Vance going over it, which he had some. I read his article. I read the thing he wrote yesterday. It was actually not bad. Ah, oh, come on! Don't do this to me. Did I do something wrong here? Fine. We'll do it the hard way.
Attention several months ago that Ukraine cannot win its war against Russia. The Ukrainian military will not be able, even with Western backing, hundreds of billions of dollars of it, to expel the Russian military from parts of eastern Ukraine. Ukraine doesn't have the industrial capacity, neither does NATO or the United States, and it doesn't have the people. Russia has 100 million more in population than Ukraine does. And that means that further support from the West for the Ukrainian military only means more dead Ukrainians and a further degraded Western economy in the US and in Germany particularly. So it's not simply a fool's errand, it's self-destruction. It's insane, it's cruel, it's abetting the killing of an entire generation of Ukrainians. This is very obvious. No honest person at this point will deny it. And yet somehow the United States Senate, which is always several years behind reality in its perceptions, just a few weeks ago decided to send another $60 billion to the Ukrainian government, which is both corrupt and authoritarian. They've canceled elections, they banned an entire Christian denomination, and then they killed an American journalist for noting any of this. And yet, the United States...
I don't know how well this is holding up. I don't know when they're going to decide to, if YouTube's going to come get me again on this one or not. And before we go any further, I am sorry about being a bit more flustered and not really talking too well on it. I'm agitated with it, and many other things that I whenever we're going over and listening to some of the others speak on the floor. Oh, this was such an important thing. Listening to Schumer earlier, listening to Mittens Romney, and several others. It was just aggravating, and unfortunately, I probably shouldn't have watched it before I started the stream, to be honest. But I was trying to weed down what I wanted to share on here to convey the message. Just absolute frustration at the sheer stupidity of us getting involved in this in the first place. We never should have been involved in this. Do I support Russia on this? No. Do I support Ukraine on this? No. It's their problem. Why should they're miles and miles and miles away from us? They have a whole bunch of other nations over there that could help, that could figure this out. We're broke. We can't afford anything. Our economy's completely on fire, and these people are going around and saying, well, we got to mail our fire extinguishers over to Ukraine and other countries. It doesn't make any damn sense. I could be wrong, and I'd be more. Please let me know if anybody's there, if they've got a different perspective on this, because this is madness. But I'm gonna turn off my mic for a moment. I got a leg cramp. I gotta walk off, so I'm gonna let this play for a little bit.
The United States Senate proposed under Mitch McConnell a plan to send another $60 billion to Ukraine. Well, imagine the surprise of all rational people around the world to wake up this morning and discover this could actually happen. And so with that in mind, we thought it'd be worth talking to one of the very few Republican senators who's bothered to make the counter case. And that would be J.D. Vance of Ohio, who joins us now from the United States. Senator, thanks so much for coming on. If you wouldn't mind telling us where this legislation is right now, what you expect to happen, and what you think should happen.
Yeah, Tucker, so there are two big things that will happen here. So tonight we will clear a major procedural vote, or we won't. So this is really the best opportunity tonight to kill this legislation. Encourage everybody to do everything that they can, contact everyone they can to ensure that we actually do kill the legislation. It is very close. The Democrats have banded together with 17 Republicans. We only need 8 of those Republicans to flip their vote to kill this thing. And I think that we'll get at least one who will, in fact, flip their vote. So that's where it sits in the Senate. The second thing, and frankly, the best opportunity we have to kill this is in the House. And that's part of what I'm trying to do, is notify people about how bad this legislation is, so that after it clears the Senate, if it does, then it goes to the House, and the House has a real opportunity to at least make it better, but hopefully kill it. And I want to say just a couple of things here, Tucker, that are extremely important to know about this legislation. Number one is that it sends $61 billion to Ukraine to fund, as you said, a hopeless war in Eastern Europe. It will decimate the Ukrainian population even more than it's already been decimated. So it's a terrible, terrible piece of legislation on the policy. The second thing I want to say, Tucker, though, is that it doesn't just fund Ukraine in 2024. And this is...
Yeah, I am sorry about this, about having to step away. But if anybody is there and you can think of something you want me to look up, a particular article, news article, or something that you can think of, um, as long as it doesn't have anything to do with the church shooting, I really want to avoid that at all. That right now, that is just a landmine of a target that aggravates a lot of people. It really ticks me off because there was a kid involved in this, and it was just crazy, and I really don't want to drag into that one. But if you think of anything, I'll be more than happy to check into it. But I guess we'll start this going again.
This is the most important point. It actually funds Ukraine in 25 and 26. Now, what's the problem with that? Say, for example, that we have a new president in 2025. That president would be handcuffed by the promises that we are making in law to Ukraine today. If you go back to 2019, Tucker, to try to give you a sense of why this matters. In 2019, the U.S. House impeached then President Donald Trump on the theory that they had appropriated money to Ukraine and Donald Trump refused to send it to Ukraine. So if Trump is elected president again and become president on January of 2025, he will conduct diplomacy. And if that diplomacy does not include sending additional billions to Ukraine, there is a theoretical argument, a predicate, if you will, for impeaching Donald Trump because they have tried to tie his hands. And the final point I'll make on this, Tucker, is that the Washington Post has already said, based on leaks from inside the intel community, the purpose of this legislation is to tie a future President Trump's hands. We're not just sending billions to Ukraine in 2024.
Now I have to question on that one. Why are they so obsessed with Trump? I thought the important thing was to win this fight over there. I guess it could be the fact that Trump's the one that said that he actually wants to end this and just, get this over with. Stop the fighting over there. That'd be nice. Guess they lose a lot of money. But, so they're putting this poison pill. I read this part yesterday. It was kind of, mind-numbing because these people are stupid.
We're trying to make it impossible for the next president to conduct diplomacy on his terms. It's anti-democratic, and it will lead to endless war all over the world.
So the political calculation behind this seems incredibly dark. So does the humanitarian effect. I noticed that no one on Capitol Hill seems interested in finding out how many have died in this war. Reliable estimates in the area, these are not partisan, are that about 400,000 Ukrainians have died. That's about as many Americans as died in the entire Second World War over the entire duration. And it's, of course, a much smaller country. So how do senators, Republican senators, get away with saying we're doing this on behalf of the Ukrainian people, on behalf of democracy, when it's destroying an entire generation and it's not a democracy? Like, what's the thinking here?
Well, Tucker, they bought into the propaganda that what is in the best interest of Ukraine is to prolong this war. And so Zelensky comes to Washington. He's tougher than a lot of them are, and I think they get a little bit of excitement from that. And Zelensky tells them a story that his war is in the best interest of the whole of Ukraine. Now, never mind that there are people within Ukraine protesting the draft. Never mind that the average age of a soldier there is pushing 45 years old. And never mind that the 650,000 wealthiest Ukrainians left the country at the beginning of the war. They didn't stay and fight. So the idea that this is unanimously supported by the Ukrainian population is, of course, preposterous and absurd. No one believes it. But here's the really crazy, and I think ultimately the very cynical thing that's going on, Tucker, is that everyone knows that this war will lead to the destruction of Ukraine. I've had conversations with Democratic colleagues where they get this sort of dark look in their eyes, and they say effectively that they want to fight Russia to the last Ukrainian drop of blood. I think if you really ask these guys, they recognize that this is not in the best interest of Ukraine. This is fundamentally in the interests of military contractors and people who think that America's most pressing challenge is to defeat the Russians. Of course, that's not a preoccupation that I share. I don't think Russia should have invaded, Tucker, but I also think that we got to be much more focused on more pressing problems like the demographic collapse of the United States, like the open borders, and what's going on in East Asia. So it's a massive campaign, Tucker, to distract people from the real problems in the world and the real problems that exist in this country.
And underlying it all, as you just said, is an impulse that's indefensible and I think deeply immoral. So
Basically, the guy J.D. Vance was summing up pretty good on that. On some of the crap, it gets even worse. Even he missed out on pointing out the amount that is being sent to, the amount that is being set aside to send our people over there. But I, but a different thing. He actually had some decent, a little bit of decent news, but on it, which is, I guess we'll pull up the screen. You got House Speaker Mike Johnson rejects Senate Ukraine funding bill. America deserves better than the Senate status quo. Now, how long he'll? This is by Thomas Stevenson. I hope. Now, how long he'll hold the ground on this? I don't know. I can guarantee you, if it was McCarthy, it would have already been passed and pushed out the door, and we'd all be doomed. House Speaker Mike Johnson released a statement on Monday night slamming the standalone $95 billion foreign aid package to Ukraine, Israel, and other areas in the Indo-Pacific, saying the Senate bill failed to meet the moment. I'm trying to see if I can pull this up. Come on. It says is the House Republicans were crystal clear from the very beginning of discussions that any so-called national security supplemental legislation must recognize that national security begins at our own border. The House acted 10 months ago to help enact transformative policy change by passing the Secure Our Border Act, and since then, including today, the Senate has failed to meet the moment. The Senate did the right thing last week by rejecting Ukraine, Taiwan, Gaza, Israel immigration legislation due to its insufficient border provisions, and it should have gone back to the drawing board to amend the current bill to include real border security provisions that would actually help end the ongoing catastrophe. Instead, the Senate's foreign aid bill is silent on the most pressing issue facing our country. The mandate of national security supplemental legislation was to secure America's own border before sending additional foreign aid around the world. It is what the American people demand and deserve. Now, in the absence of having received any single border policy change from the Senate, the House will have to continue to work its own will on these important matters. America deserves better than the Senate status quo. All right, well, you got that. There is another thing here. You have, this is from Benny Johnson. I've watched a little bit of him here and there, but this one, he actually posts a list of the 22 Republicans that decided to, supposed Republicans that decided to jump in on this. I'm sorry, they're just war hawks. That's all I consider them to be. You have John Boozman, Shelley Moore Capito, Bill Cassidy, Susan Collins, John Cornyn of Texas. That's insulting. Kevin Kramer, Mike Crapo, I guess. I don't care. Joni Ernst, Chuck Grassley, John Hoeven, John Kennedy, Mitch McConnell, the turtle, Jerry Moran, Lisa Murkowski, the Democrat from Alaska that still claims that it's a Republican, James Risch, I guess, Mittens Romney, Mike Rounds, Dan Sullivan, John Thune, Tom Tillis, Roger Wicker, and Todd Young. Now, and I hope people get this list and remember, whenever it's time for their election, boot them out. I don't care if you have to vote Democrat to get rid of them. Get rid of them. It's better to have an out Democrat than a rhino. They're the lowest form of political life. They claim to be one thing while just doing the bidding of the other. They have no spine. They have no standards, no principles, and most of these people are nothing but war profiteers at this point. Especially Mittens Romney. Mittens here is one of the worst scumbags that has ever lived. I don't know how that guy keeps coming back. His political career keeps coming back from the dead, but it's time to put a stake in it. I wish no ill upon them personally. I just want their political careers to burst into flames. They are more than willing to shaft us for their own benefit, and that's why I want them to go poof as far as political career goes. Let's see. But hopefully Mike Johnson will hold the line in Congress and basically just shelve this bill permanently until it can be burned out on the mall in Washington as a display of what type of crap should not be acceptable as far as treatment of American people by politicians and their decrees. Now we're going to get to something a bit more interesting that isn't so heavy and political, and it's, well, at least it's interesting to me. And I hope it's interesting to you as well. I'm trying to pull up the article first. Technically, it's the website, not the article. Let me see if I can get the article. Sorry, this is I'm definitely not a professional. I'm incompetent at best, we'll put it that way. Excuse me. Greetings. By the way, if you have anything that you'd like me to look into, let me know. I'm more than happy to do so. The first half of the show so far that I did was pretty rough. I'm rather frustrated today with the articles. Oh, that is not an issue. I'm just glad you showed up. Otherwise, I'm just screaming into the void. Waiting for it to scream back. Sorry. Let's see. Actually, we'll... Oh, ouch, cat. That and I got a cat that's trying to rip the flesh from my bones. Let's see. No, let's do this article. Okay, before we get to the article, we'll go over the main website for Neom or Neom, whatever. Saudi Arabia company building something interesting, trying to change urban living. The Line is what this creepy thing is called.
The Line is going to change things for the better because we can implement global best practice into every element of the city.
we are working with the best architects and planners from around the world in order to take all of the learnings we've inherited from other cities and create a new city from scratch.
At The Line, we're working on building an urban model which provides unprecedented livability, a model for nature preservation and sustainability, all while providing a unique environment for economic growth. I am Tariq Qadoumi, and I am the Executive Director of Urban Planning at NEOM.
I am Giles Pendleton, and I am the Executive Director.
For too long, humanity has existed within dysfunctional and polluted cities that ignore nature. Now, a revolution in civilization is taking place. Traditional city and consolidating its footprint, designing to protect and enhance nature. The Line will be home to 9 million residents and will be built with a footprint of just 34 square kilometers. And we are designing it to provide a healthier, more sustainable quality of life. The Line's communities are organized in 3 dimensions. Residents have access to all their daily needs within 5-minute walk neighborhoods. And the Line's infrastructure makes it possible to travel end to end in 20 minutes with no need for cars, resulting in 0 carbon emissions. By leveraging AI technology, services are autonomous, saving you time and effort. Designed by world-leading architects, the Line is 500 meters tall, 200 meters wide, 170 kilometers long, and housed within an elegant mirror glass facade. Intelligent solutions.
Sorry. Okay. Now, I could. Yeah, this is Mega City 1. It's creepy. Alright. Something that I find creepy about this, and I could be wrong. More than likely, I probably am, because I'm usually wrong about everything. But this thing is covered in mirrored glass. Now, imagine you live inside this thing, which wouldn't be a chance in hell I'd ever want to live in it. Okay? And you wake up, and you're getting your morning coffee as the sun is coming up. Okay? And out in the distance, while you're looking out the window, you see this nomadic tribe out there with their camels and other animals, because this is in Saudi Arabia, so you got nomadic tribes out there, and they got their camp. And all of a sudden, the sun hits this mirrored glass, as reflected back. And the poor camp burst into flames, cooking the poor innocent camels and nomads that are living out there because you have decided to make one big reflective solar panel, and it acts like some of those that they angle just wrong that set birds' feathers on fire. Well, now you got a bigger one that has decided to absolutely roast the camels and other animals and the people there with the in the tribe setting their tents on fire. You get to you get to sit there and enjoy your cup of coffee while watching uh, these people scream and run around like deranged living birthday candles before they collapse. I, I could be wrong, but mirror glass just doesn't always seem like that good of an idea. I mean, if I remember, there was a couple of years ago they had this problem in one of these buildings in England. It had mirror glass on it, and the way it was angled, the sun would hit it, and it would reflect down, and it was starting to melt stuff. It had melted the interior of a car. It was damaging property. I mean, it was just horrible. And now you want to make this massive wall of mirrored glass. And the poor planes that have to fly over and see this, they are toast. Even if the plane doesn't cook from it, which the turbulence might happen with the change of air pressure with the temperature variation with the heat and everything, you're going to have their blind. Just, I don't think they entirely thought this through, but I mean, some of it's fascinating in the concept, but there's not a chance in hell I'd live in this thing. And mind you, this was the video from 22. They've started digging on this recently. They've started the foundation of this thing, and it's huge what they're doing. It's a huge project. It's fascinating, and yet at the same time, hell no. But we'll continue the video.
Create efficiency and year-round temperate microclimate with natural ventilation. Energy and water supplies are 100% renewable. The line is designed as a series of unique communities, offering a wealth of amenities, providing equitable views and immediate access to the surrounding nature. With 40% of the world accessible within 6 hours, at the heart of the globe's key trade routes, a place for commerce and communities to thrive like nothing on Earth seen before. The Line, the city that delivers new wonders for the world.
Now, no, I cannot think of how the. All right, they're talking about 110 kilometers long, I believe it was. Or was it? Well, we'll get to. There's an article on it that I got. They're talking about how long it is and everything, and they're talking about that. It's one big straight line. I mean, they're cutting into mountains doing this too. I mean, it's just a massive undertaking they're doing. But they're saying that you'll be able to get from one end to the other by train, by high-speed rail, in 20 minutes. Yeehaw! It just something feels off here. I'm sure it can be done, but no. If you'll excuse me for a moment, I gotta go check on something real quick, and then I got another article to pull up that is on the line. So. Sorry, Nero, my dog, was getting upset about the Amazon person that just pulled up and dropped off something. So, okay, let's get back to this part. There. Now, Popular Mechanics, they were a bit more cynical, and they didn't see some of the humorous and yet horrifying side effects of this construction. Thank you. But we'll go over what they had. Saudi Arabia is building an entire city in a straight line. It makes zero sense. Basic math says the city should actually be the circle, not the line. Well, now before they get into their argument, I actually have an argument as to why you want the line and not a circle. You see, it goes through a mountain range, okay? And part of what they're doing is aqueducts. So they can keep fresh water flowing in and out through the entire length of the of this mega city one. So, I mean, 500 meters tall, almost 200 meters wide. This thing is huge. But in 2021, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia announced its. Oh, I better actually say who wrote the article. This was published September of last year, no less. Okay. By Darren. Forgive me, Lord. Orff. Forgive me, Lord. I cannot do names. O-R-F. Orff. I guess. I'm sorry. I'm crap with names. It's like wharf without the W. So Orff. I hope. Sorry, dude. Your name is rough. Should have a little thing here where I could click and it would sound it out for me. At least the video had where I could hear the names of how to pronounce things. Okay. Good crap. Did I know it? Pretty much only one way. See that? I know. I'm going to be really sad. I'm going to be really disappointed if it's actually pronounced something else, and they just had a typo in here, okay? And I screwed up, but I really don't mean to. Anyways, Saudi Arabia announced its plans to build a desert linear city called the Line, on a scale never seen before in human history. Great Wall of China. Centered around a main high-speed transportation network. The Line's streetless, carless design was touted as the future of human habitation by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman. Sorry, Crown Prince. I'm not good with names. Whatever. However, mathematics broke down the mathematicians broke down the numbers and calculated what the typical commutes in such a city would look like, discovering that it'd be better what type of writing is sorry, Orff, I'm not giving you credit for that crap, or your editor. Discovering that it'd be better the city. It'd be better to build the city in a circle, you dipstick. I barely passed English and I can pick this up. And don't tell me you're not English Popular Mechanics. You were founded in England, so I don't want to hear it. That's just lazy. Rather than a straight line. Sorry. Back in January 2021, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, this dude, Um, how the hell do I pronounce this? Just, please? Any clues here? I don't want to offend, but the hell is that? You know what? We're going to stick to the Saudi Crown Prince, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. I just can't do it. I'm so sorry. I can't do it. I'm complete and total crap. What the hell is that? What the? Abdulaziz? Abdulaziz? See, I don't want to offend the guy. I don't want to really insult him. Not that I really care about Saudi Arabia, but I'm not going to intentionally go out of the way to crap on your name, but for heaven's sakes, what the hell is that? Never mind. It's almost like reading Star Wars names again. Okay. Announced a mega project unlike any other, dubbed The Line. This huge urban development project promised to build a city, as its name suggests, in a straight line rather than your typical round urban sprawl. The city, stretching from the Red City to the city of Tabuk, 110 miles away, but they list it as kilometers, so it's less. Never mind. Along with its estimated 9 million inhabitants in that small amount of area, would be entirely carless and instead be tied together by high-speed rail system that could travel from one end of the line to the other in just 20 minutes. Okay, so you're going to go 20 minutes to go, let's say they got it right, 110 miles. It's doable, but I wouldn't want to live anywhere on that thing. It's going to shake like all hell after a few moments. It's going to try to rip itself apart like that. Along with it. All right. The idea is a radical departure from the typical city design, and the Prince's accompanying slides during his Apple-like presentation 2 years ago looked almost like concept art for an ambitious sci-fi film. But paradigm-shifting ideas, though this isn't the first linear city ever conceived, always seem weird to the people used to the old ways of living. Maybe the line with its driverless existence and purported low environmental impact makes a lot more sense. Yeah, everything's within 5 minutes walking distance. It sounds like a prison, to be honest. Oh, look, it's a big, pretty, flashy prison. Everything's in 5 minutes. You don't need to go further than that. So you'll have to get approval to go further than that. No, thank you. Well, mathematics disagrees. The Complexity Science Hub, a research organization in Vienna, Austria, published a paper in June in the journal NPJ Urban Sustainability, detailing why the line is a bit of a nightmare for commuters. According to the paper, selecting just 2 future residents of the line at random shows why designing a city in a straight line essentially maximizes commutes from point A to point B. If its 9 million inhabitants are homogeneously distributed in the city, each kilometer will have roughly 53,000 people. If we randomly pick 2 people from the city, they will be, on average, 57 kilometers or 35 miles apart. The paper reads, although the line occupies only 2% of the surface of Johannesburg, we pick 2 random people from Johannesburg, there are only 33 kilometers or 20 miles apart. The team explained in their paper. Not here to just naysay the new idea, the researchers offered an alternative proposal called the circle. Instead of building in a straight line, city planners could take the same buildings proposed for the line and arrange them in a circle instead. Making this simple change, at least on paper, would create a city only 4 miles in diameter, essentially packing 9 million residents into a city the size of Pisa, Italy. The same surface area proposed for the line. Now it's a circular prison if you go by their thing. Residents would be within walking distance of nearly 25% of the entire city, and if they walked only a mile or more, they'd be within 66% of the city. Oh, and the average distance between 2 random residents is about 1.8 miles. Although the paper mostly focuses on the mathematical shortcomings of the line's design, it also brings up some good practical problems. The city's main train line malfunctions if it malfunctions for any reason. For example, it could effectively cut off residents from millions of people, and an idea that's unthinkable in today's modern metropolises. But the complex science of well-reasoned arguments are likely for not, as construction online has already begun. We're getting a city built in a straight line, whether it makes mathematical sense or not. Well, let's see if they have anything on the latest stories. Anything new? Is there anything? I mean, you got the moon is shrinking where we're trying to land. Okay. I could go over that one if you want. I could go over space detectives finally solved the case of the missing sulfur in dying stars. Oops, scientists may have miscalculated our global warming timeline. The real reason bugs keep flying into artificial light and accidentally dying. Somebody spent a whole lot of money on that. Death is inevitable. New kind of cremation is trying to make it sustainable. Funeral pyre? I don't know. A fusion reaction generated twice the energy used for the first time ever. Oh, well, this is from February 8th. Fusion reactors would be neat if that... it's the same guy. Come on, Orf. You're everywhere. Okay. Alright. A fusion reaction generated twice the energy used for the first time ever. Game on. We're one step further down the path to limitless clean power. On December 5th, 2020. This is all old. Really old. Okay, never mind. We'll skip that. You click latest stories and this is what you get. Did they go under? No, this is a new article. Okay. On December 5th, 2022, National Ignition Facility in the U.S. achieved ignition by creating more energy via nuclear fusion than they originally put in. Now a series of details focus on how that achievement came to be, and also highlights 3 subsequent ignition reactions, one of which produced almost double the amount of energy it used. Investments in renewable energy could be vital to combating the climate crisis in the present day. Anybody else thinking of Mr. Fusion from Back to the Future? Although still a far future technology, nuclear fusion, is really hot right now, both literally and figuratively. Squishing together two light nuclei requires immensely hot temperatures, like 100 million degrees Celsius hot. And the fusion industry is similarly sizzling. More than 40 fusion companies now exist around the world, 25 of which are in the United States alone. One of the big drivers behind immense excitement surrounding this futuristic energy making venture is the fact that Lawrence Livermore, I guess, National Laboratory, National Ignition Facility, achieved ignition in December 2022. This means that for the first time ever, scientists were able to create a fusion reaction that produced more energy than was used to create the reaction in the first place. Yesterday, LLNL published a series of papers that go into detail about how exactly this major achievement took place, and also talk about 3 other ignition moments that occurred throughout 2023, one of which produced almost twice the amount of energy as was initially put in. A fundamental obstacle for realizing fusion energy source, the researchers said in the press release, has been the ability to control the heat of plasma, a mixture of ions and free electrons, to the conditions required for ignition, and to confine the plasma at these conditions over a long enough time scale such that more fusion energy is produced than was supplied to initiate the reaction. To put it very simply, nuclear fusion is like nuclear fission, but in reverse. In a fission reactor, the only kind of nuclear reactor used as an energy source today, splits uranium-235 into 2 smaller atoms, specifically barium and krypton. This releases energy that then creates steam and powers turbines. Fusion, on the other hand, happens on the other end of the nuclear binding energy curve. It uses 2 light nuclei, usually hydrogen isotopes, deuterium and tritium, that then overcome the strong nuclear force and a subatomic quirk known as quantum tunneling. The resulting fusion creates a helium atom. And most importantly, energy, thanks to the whole E equals mc squared thing. Although there are many ways to achieve fusion, the sun is pretty good at it thanks to its immense gravity. The NIF uses the process known as inertial confinement. In using this method, the 192 lasers converge on a holarium capsule that creates an X-ray bath. This squeezes the isotopes inside, which collapse at roughly 250 miles per hour, fuse, and release energy. Because the fusion reaction occurs before the fuel disassembles, the plasma is contained by its own inertia, hence the name. On December 5th, 2022, NIF produced 3.15 megajoules despite only putting in 2.15 megajoules despite only putting in 2.05 megajoules, although this doesn't account for energy needed to run the entire facility, which is roughly 100 times greater than the energy that eventually reaches the capsule. Ignition achieved. In earlier August, the NIF announced that their second ignition successfully achieved higher yields than their historic first. While details were scant at the time, the paper reveals that 2.5 megajoules of laser energy created 3.88 megajoules, which is even higher than the 2 subsequent ignitions in 2023. However, these efficiencies are happening at a facility that wasn't exactly designed to maximize output in the first place, instead achieving ignition in order to keep U.S.'s nuclear deterrence safe and reliable is its primary goal. Then if I look, I don't know if anybody's even there. I'm fascinated by this, but message just people go read this. I can continue if you want. I'm kind of fascinated by the process itself of how they're doing this, but we can continue on this, which is well, it doesn't have too much further to go. Let's screw it. We're gonna go for it. You know. Well, to be honest, I'm probably gonna get off here for a little bit, and I may be back on to do a stream on my alternate channel later. If you wouldn't mind, please leave a, even though it's been a shit show, can I beg for a like on this one? Uh, I have got to get better at this, and who knows if more interesting news pops up tonight, I'll definitely do another. But yeah, begging for likes. I can't say I deserve a subscribe, but I can beg for a like at least. You'll notice I'm out here. But anyways, yeah, I'm gonna probably finish this article and go ahead and log out. I gotta get me something for my throat anyway. So, thank you for coming by. First place instead, yes, nuclear. The NIF laser architecture of the target configuration was chosen to give the highest probability for fusion ignition for research purposes and was not optimized to produce net energy for fusion energy applications. The NIF said, and inertial fusion energy applications requiring advancements to the underlying scheme require further developments such as laser energy usage, shot rate, target robustness, higher fuel compression levels, and cost. The fusion era is finally upon us. Laboratories regularly achieve ignition. Internal projects gear up for first plasma on groundbreaking experiments. And companies continue to invest in the energy source of the future, but not the energy source of the present. While fusion energy is certainly exciting, it's arriving too late to solve the climate crisis. Research into emerging field continues to grow. As it does, so too must investments in renewable. No, well, look, I'll disagree there. Look, you want to put solar and wind? That sounds fine. Put it where you can, but I personally say nuclear. It's the most reliable, cleanest, and in some cases, like in some of those reactors in France, they're able to use their own waste to fuel itself, so it recycles its own waste. So nuclear, if you don't want to do wind and solar, that's fine, but it doesn't work everywhere. I'm not saying don't. I'm an all of the above guy personally. I prefer more nuclear because I find it more reliable, but that's me. So I just say, if we ever want to see a world powered by the physics of our own sun, the problem with this is, all right, is the they're talking about it's many years down the line, but anyways, like I said just a moment ago, I am going to log off of here. My throat is wore out at the moment. If anything big pops up, I will definitely be back on. And if not, I may be on my alternate channel, the Beast of Caravanor. But we'll have to see. But anyways, I thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have